The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Ready or not, here I come.
Take time to be a dad today.
You're watching The Bat.
Welcome to this month's Salute to Service, and with me today I have U.S. Army veteran and Medina County resident, Mr. Bill Schmock. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you?
Fine. How about yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. So tell me a little bit about where you're from and you know, what brought you to Medina County.
Well, I was born here
Okay.
69 years ago. I live in Chippewa Lake. I have my wife of 42 years, just celebrated 42 years.
God bless her.
I have two, yes, more than you would think. And I have two children. One is a school teacher in the Cloverleaf School District. She's from the University of Syracuse with a master's degree. And my son works for a jewelry place in Medina, in Akron.
In Akron. So you've been in the area your whole life?
My whole life,
You've
yes.
lived in Chippewa your whole life? Born?
I've lived in Chippewa my whole life, and if I can get into, I was raised, my family kind of raised me with three objectives in life. Serve my country, serve my neighborhood, and serve the school system for education.
You've did all three. You've given one child back to the school system?
I gave one child back to my school system. I've given my boy to the jewelry business. He's also a great tennis player. He was a tennis pro for years and years.
Wow.
And I was mayor of Chippewa from 1980 to 2002.
Okay.
I served in the military from 66 to 68. And I am on the Cloverleaf School Board. This is my second term on the Cloverleaf School Board.
Hey.
And I'm also on the Medina County Career Center School Board.
Okay.
Cloverleaf School Board
Right.
representative.
Right.
And if I can get into it a little further, I'm on the VVA board,
There you go.
Thank
Which stands for?
Vietnam Veterans.
There you go. Okay.
And through your office, I got involved with the Vietnam vets, and we can talk
Good.
about that a little later.
Good.
And I'm also on the Courtney Lawrence board, which is the building where all the chapters
Right,
meet.
up in Medina.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about your military history. So you went into the service, was it right out of high school or?
No,
No.
no. I was going to college,
Okay.
and I didn't take enough credit hours, and I got caught.
Oh,
So I got drafted out of Ashland College. I received my draft notice on Christmas Eve, 1965.
how old were you?
19.
19. So you were only in college about a year or so, right?
Well, it was 2. I didn't
Second year.
graduate till 17.
Okay. And so when you got your draft notice, how long between the time of Christmas? Merry Christmas, by the way.
Merry Christmas, yes. My brother was singing that for about 3 days. Yes.
So when you got your draft notice on Christmas Eve, how long from then until you actually shipped
About
off?
15 days.
15 days. So you were gone by the first of the year. You were off to basic training then.
10th of January is when I left. I'm
Wow,
sorry.
that's pretty quick.
Yes.
It didn't give you a lot of time to pack up and move anywhere.
But that's
did it?
okay. I didn't want a lot of time to think about it. Let's just
that's
do
true.
it.
So where did you go to basic?
I went to basic in Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
And you said 67, right? Is that what year you got?
67 is when I went to Vietnam.
Okay.
66 when I was
So
drafted.
the Vietnam War is the height of the Vietnam War, the draft, everything. I mean, it's building up. What's going through your head when you get that draft notice?
When I get the draft notice, I said, well, okay, it's my
Yep,
time.
yep.
I'm drafted.
Yep.
When I got the orders to Vietnam, it was a little shaky. But I said, well, you know, I'm going over.
Yeah.
It wasn't my choice, nothing. But I went over and I did my job.
Probably
and-
better than a 50-50 chance at that time period that you were going.
Oh,
yeah.
I think it was much higher than that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But went over there with the objective of doing my job, whatever I had to do, and come home.
Okay. So what did you wind up doing in the military? I mean, what was your job specialty?
Well, my job specialist was, I was a long-range reconnaissance person.
Okay. Alert.
I was a LRP,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
So I was out quite a distance from anything that would look like reality or anything that would look like a village or a
Right.
city. I spent a lot of time very, very close to Charlie.
Sitting in and listening.
Yes. And I was a tunnel dweller. I also went into the tunnels and did some things. But again, I'm 19 years old. You're 19 years old and you're bulletproof.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff to do at night too, doesn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So South Carolina basic training, and you were there, luckily you were there kind of in the winter because otherwise it's pretty hot down there in
Yes,
July.
it was nice.
Was basic pretty tough?
No, it wasn't. I was in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that basic, when you first get there, like 2 or 3 weeks into it, you
Right.
do a physical test. And it's a 500 total. I was 450 on the first one, and I was 498 on the second one. So I didn't think it was. There was some things that I thought were funny, but there was things that started to teach me discipline. It started to
Right.
teach me a little bit of discipline.
Yeah.
I'm still not the most disciplined person in the world, but it started to teach me some things like that.
Yeah, but kind of routes you in a certain direction. a little bit,
Absolutely
yeah.
did. Absolutely did.
So did you go to AIT down there in South Carolina?
No,
too?
I went to AIT in Fort Bliss, Texas.
Ooh, there's
El Paso.
another hot place.
And
huh?
then I spent some time out in the desert. I forget,
White Sands.
White
yep,
Sands.
White Sands
Yeah, I
Missile
spent some
Range,
time
yeah,
in
yeah.
White Sands.
I actually went to basic down at Fort Bliss. So
You went to
yeah,
basic in
right,
Fort Bliss?
Fort Bliss, yeah. So it probably was just as ugly when I was there as when you were there. It's not a very nice.
Well, it really got ugly because, I was too young yet to attend some of the places, some of the bars and
Right,
stuff.
right.
But if you cross the Rio Grande,
over in the Juarez.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem I had was crossing the river. You see the westerns and the rivers, and here there was kids sitting down and waiting to get the coins, and there wasn't hardly any
Right.
water in it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like night and day the difference of our side and the other side. of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you finished AIT. Where'd they ship you off to your first duty assignment?
I got the orders.
So you went right from AIT?
I went from AIT to Vietnam. Yes.
So which unit were you with?
I was in the 4th of the 60th was the basic one that I went over in, and then I kind of
Which division?
it was the 4th Battalion, 60th.
Oh, okay. 60th Infantry
Yeah,
Division, I
yeah.
assume. So you're coming right out of AIT and you're going to Vietnam. What's going through your head at that point? That's a little different than, I'm going to the Army now.
Well, yes, and we went over by ship. We weren't flown. We went over by ship, and I think the first time that I really faced the reality of that was when we got off the ship. You see the world.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go to? Da Nang or?
Da Nang.
Yeah.
So you see the movies, the John Wayne movies and whatever, and you leave the ship and you go into the little boat and it takes you off and,
Right.
and you rush to. I realized at that point I had no weapon. I had no bullets, and I'm going into this zone that I think is a war zone. But fortunately, we were taken care of until we got
Right.
all that stuff
You're
the
going
next
into
day.
the big base there
Yeah.
at Da Nang, yeah. How many days you spend there?
A week.
A week?
Yes.
And that's where they give you all your prep gear and everything
All the
like
prep
that?
gear, all the paperwork need to be done.
So did you go over with a group of guys with your unit, or did you go over there and fill in a unit?
No, we had, I want to say 2 companies came over with us.
And you all stayed together the whole time? Over
No.
there, pretty much? No.
No, but we were there,
Yeah.
and then we kind of split off into where they needed people.
So did you spend a year over there? Which is
I
typical?
spent 13 months.
So you got a bonus month, right?
Yeah, I got a bonus month. I left January, I want to say 3rd or 4th.
To come back?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So when you go over there, I guess let's talk a little bit about while you were there. I mean, what's the experience like, that you want to talk about? Once you go there from day one to the day you leave, I mean, obviously your attitudes change a little bit, the what you might call the pucker factor, I guess. What was it like for you?
It was a different thing. It was not very humorous.
Right.
It was a pretty serious situation. And my attitude, right, wrong, or indifferent, was I was coming home,
Right.
and I wasn't going to come home injured. I was going to come home.
Right.
And anything that stood between me and that objective
Was done.
was going to be taken care
Yeah,
of.
yeah. That's probably a good attitude. I think a lot of it is attitude when you go into something like that. Any memories over there, buddies that you still talk to or anything like that?
I had a friend from Medina that, believe it or not, I can't remember his name. It was 50 years ago.
Right.
But he was working the home base when I was coming home, and he did all. I walked over. He saw me. He said, "Give me the paperwork. You need to separate. Go back and sleep." And he took care of all of that.
Really?
Oh, he took all of it.
So he took care of it.
So the next day, I went over to see where I stood, and the next day I saw where I stood.
How do you start to feel like as your time's winding down? You get that short timer. attitude, do you start to become more cautious or?
Yes, you do. I had a short stick. I don't know if you ever heard of what the short stick was, but every month you cut a part
piece
of
off,
it.
yeah.
And yeah, you became a little bit more questionable about, did I really want to go out? And with about 2 to 2.5 weeks left, I didn't.
Yeah.
I stayed.
Right.
I figured my time was up. I stayed. I didn't want to get messed up the last 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, there's got to be a point where, hey, I'm through this, and you know.
But when you're out in the woods and you're out in the boonies and you're out in the jungle, you cannot have the attitude of being safe.
No.
It's like playing a sport. You
Right.
can't be worried about injury.
Right.
You have to. If you worry about injury, you will become.
There's some people that think that short timers' attitude of playing it cautious actually is worse than,
Yeah.
you know.
When 2.5 weeks to go, that's when I got cautious and said, I'm not going out anymore.
So how much time when they brought, I assume they brought you back to Da Nang, is that where you flew out of, or?
I'm going to tell you yes, but I'm not going to be.
How much time did you
sure
spend there when you came back before you left?
To about 3 weeks.
3 weeks, and then just out process and turning in all
Out
your
process, bingo, bingo, out I went.
gear. And you're feeling pretty good at that point, because that was probably a pretty safe place at that time, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah. So once you get on, you flew home?
Yes.
Once you get on that plane to come home?
I was nervous. This is a true story.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading the paper, and they were flying you into San Francisco.
Right.
And the 2 days before I left, I read a story in the military paper about a young man that got off the plane, was going down an escalator, and a lady walked up, a mother, so let's say probably 50,
Right.
walked up to him and said, "Oh, are you home from Vietnam?" And the kid says, "Yes, I just got off," and shot him.
Wow.
Shot him.
Why?
He says, "Why should you come home and my son not?"
Oh, my goodness.
So that made me a little nervous. I don't have very many things as far as uniforms and stuff, because when I got off the airport, I went and bought some clothes.
Right.
Okay, it's not that I wasn't proud of the uniform, because I was, but I didn't want to spend 13 months over there dodging the stuff and then getting, and that was a scary thing.
You know, it's funny because when you talk to people, like, you know, you talk to people around here, and you know, it seemed like here was fine. And, you know, like I know a lot of people that lived in the South, and they say, well, we wore our uniform, you know, back home. But it was that initial coming home into California where it seemed like a lot of the protesting was going on, and that's where a lot of the incidents happened, and guys went through a lot of stuff, you know, with the protests and things like that. But the whole country didn't seem like it was like that.
No.
When you start to talk.
No, when I
like
came home, I mean, when my parents picked me up and I
Right.
got home, and I didn't have any problems there. There was some things, because, you know, you're over there, you come back.
Right.
You don't go through any of this, how to get back along with the citizenry.
Right.
Okay.
And you're a different man when you come home.
Yes.
You are. Yes.
So you had to be a little bit careful in how you approached people.
Yeah.
I tell a sad story, and I don't tell very many stories about war, but I tell a story about, you know, when you slept over there, you didn't, nobody touched you. You got called, "Hey,
Right.
Bill, wake up, it's
Right.
your duty." Okay, that's no. Well, I got home, and the first day I was home, I was sleeping, and my mother came up. I might not get through this. And gave me the big hug. And the next thing you know, she was in the wall.
Oh, yeah.
And I was, and I told her, "No, not yet. I'm not ready for that."
Yeah. You sleep with a different
Whole
sense of,
different
yeah,
attitude,
yeah,
yes. And it takes you a while to work back
Yeah,
into those things. It works back in a while to, I tell a lot of stories and a lot of jokes, and some people didn't like them,
Right.
and it took a while to have them understand. But I did understand, when I walked out, understand what I will do under pressure and when emergency situations.
Right.
And that's the one thing I always remember about that
I think
13
I
period.
think
I grew up.
I think it teaches you to handle, it kind of teaches you, I don't know if this is the right terminology, but what's important and what's really not important
Yes,
in life.
yes,
you
it
know what I
does.
mean?
Yes, it does.
Because you come back and you look at some of the things that civilians stress about and things like that, and you're kind of like, oh, okay. Nobody's dying today, so we're good. You know?
Well, and I tell the other story about the greatest thing ever happened to me was my wife, Janet, that I've been married to for 42 years, and I was with for 4 years prior to that. And, I tell the story about Humpty Dumpty came home after falling off the wall.
Right.
And my beloved Janet put Humpty back together again
together.
very slowly. But she stuck with it, and she put me back together. And any success I've ever had in life is due to her.
So when you came home, how much more time did you have in the military?
None.
None.
I was done.
You were done. They let you out. So
I
you
was
pretty
done.
much did.
Yep.
So when did you meet Janet?
I met her about a year later, 8 months later.
She from the area too?
Yes. And I ran into her a few times prior to even getting serious. But again, the story, because I am a storyteller, was that I was with her one night and had to go to my father's birthday. And my dad, weren't invited, it was expected.
Right.
And I went, there was about 35 people at the party, and I introduced her to everybody. And the last one I introduced her to was my mother, who gave her a big hug and whispered in her ear, "Thank God for you, you're the one."
Wow.
First meeting. Yeah.
And 42
So,
years later.
Yeah, well, put a little pressure on me, Mom, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So what did you do? You know, I mean, you're out of the service, you get married. What did you start in your civilian career?
I worked with, I got lucky enough to work with a quality guru named Dr. Deming. And I got on his touring group. And I worked with him for a couple of years. And he was in the quality area, he was the guru. They threw him out of the country once because they didn't want to live with what he was requiring. And
Like
Ford
quality
got him back
control
in.
type
Yes,
stuff?
quality.
Okay.
And then when I finished with him after a couple of years and making some presentations, I put my resume out and went to work. And I've been on the vice president level from the age of 26, 27. But I learned, I didn't finish college. I finished school.
So what do you think, do you think the military carried on any of that success? I mean, do you think you learned anything from the military that you carried on?
The military taught me discipline. The military taught me, if I don't know it, find out.
Right.
The military taught me that I don't have to be the smartest one in the building.
Right.
And if I'm not, I need to find somebody that is,
Right.
and not be afraid to ask and do. And my staff was pretty good in some areas that I might not have been. So it taught me when I delegate the things that you know well,
Right.
and keep the things that you don't, and learn those until you're good enough, then you can delegate.
It seems like everybody I talk to, you know, the military shaped them in somewhat of a positive role.
They taught me to be positive. They taught me to be confident.
Right.
They taught me to hold my own. They taught me not to be afraid if I disagree, to explain why I disagree and explain it and back up not just that I disagree or you're wrong, but be able to back that up.
So I know you had said, you know, a couple of things that you're, you know, about giving back to the community. You've been very involved down in your community in Chippewa. You were the mayor down there and still continue. Why is that important to you?
The reasons that all three are is that, first of all, to go into the service and fight for my country, a country that is, in my opinion, the greatest thing in the world.
It is.
And allowed me the opportunity to be who I am.
Right.
And debate things that I don't like. It allowed me to wear my hair long if I wanted to, and wear tie-dyed clothes.
Right.
It just and it supported that.
Right.
The village of Chippewa raised me. They accepted me for who I was and allowed me to do whatever it was that I did, and allowed me to grow through having the position of mayor. The school educated me to be who I am. And I think that I need to give those things back to the kids. And from financial, from classes, from this and that. So that's why I ran for the school board also. So giving back was always a big thing. And I think more the time I spent in the service taught me that stronger.
Right. And I think school board is one that you're definitely giving back, because you're not taking a whole lot away from being a school board. You're definitely working for the school at that point.
Well, I'm allowed to because I'm retired.
Right.
And you can't just sit around and do nothing.
Right.
I think that you owe parts of that.
You do. I agree with you. I think you owe your community something that you've taken away. So why is it important? I know you said you're involved in the VVA. What's the VVA do for you? And what's the VVA do for others? I mean, I know because we all get something out of the veterans organizations, but yet the organization also gives back a lot too. So what's it mean to you to belong to something like the Vietnam Veterans of America?
When I first came back, I found out about your area. And I went in and talked to some people, met some people at the county fair, and I had a chance, an opportunity to talk. And the thing was, when I can now deal with people that have been to the same place I have, may not be in the same mindset,
Right.
but knew what we went through. And that was good for me at that point. I had stayed away from it for years, purposely.
Right.
But now that I joined it and learned that the other people went through the same kind of problems that I did, went through the same kind of things overseas that I did, and it makes it easier to talk about to people that have been there.
Right.
People that haven't been there don't know it and don't understand.
No, not at all.
People that have been there
Right.
will work with you, they'll talk, and that is a great group of people. And we know eventually it's going to disappear.
And everybody walks out different too. I mean, no
Oh.
two people walk out the same. I don't care
no,
what anybody
no,
says.
even after meetings.
Yeah.
And so that's important. I was lucky enough to be asked to work on the Courtney Lawrence board, which is the building where everybody meets.
Right.
And we have we're going through a big renovation of the building that hasn't been touched since 58
Yeah, it's 60s
is the
or
number.
something. Yeah, a long time.
And that was an honor and privilege for me. And again, it's people that care about what's going to happen to future generations that come
Right.
in. The Iran war, the war now on
Iraq, Afghanistan. Yeah.
So, and the service did that. And the more, again, when I met those people from the VVA, Vietnam Veterans Association, it brought more to me that I need to help, that I need to get more and more involved.
Right.
So,
I mean, and I think, with your attitude, you're a good positive role model for a lot of veterans out there. Because there's a lot of guys that are still in 1968, I think, or 1969. And I see with some of the Iraq and Afghanistans, they're still in 2005. And I don't know, some people can get over that hump and some people can't. It takes a lot. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks. I don't know. Like I said, everybody comes home. No two people come home the same from any war. And it's funny how the wars, the generations have changed from the World War II to Vietnam, and then now you have today's group of veterans, and they're all different in some way, but we all share the same kind of common bond, I guess, in one way.
well, I think the Vietnam veterans are starting to be a little bit more appreciated than when we came home.
Mm-hmm.
We worked under some real restrictions over there that
Right.
nobody will really truly understand.
Right.
It wasn't us.
Right.
It was how
It was politics. Right.
absolutely
Yeah.
big time. So yes, you're right there. There are movies I can't watch.
Yeah.
I finally, after 2 years, watched The American Sniper, and the reason was I was there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't watch a whole lot of those
No.
movies either. I just,
so Apocalypse Now I can watch.
Yeah.
I have fun with that.
yeah.
But there's some that I can't see. There's some times where, and my wife understands it and knows when those things come, where I will get into myself
Yeah.
for some reason. It could be the way I put the crackers in the soup. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I can get into.
Yeah.
I get back into myself a little bit, and I'm not open.
See, I can watch like Kelly's Heroes or something.
Yeah,
but
Kelly's
Heroes.
Heroes.
But the newer movies are just too. Number one is they're too new for me, but they're too graphic too,
Mm-hmm.
and I just don't need. I mean, it's kind of like I don't want to walk out of the movie theater feeling like that, so why go? That's kind of where I'm at. Because there are some movies I'd like to go see, and some people said, "Hey, that's a good movie. You should go see it." And I'm kind of like, yeah, it's okay.
Well, when it came on, when American Sniper came on HBO, I was told by all three not to watch it.
Right.
And I didn't for a period of time. And then I had talked to some of my friends who said, well, it's not really that bad, but
Right.
it's got some problems to it. And I think it was very, very good about how a father and a husband come back. A little bit different.
Right.
And people have to understand
Right.
that. And it has to be worked together. And fortunately, I had a member of the family that allowed that to happen.
So I think I could do a book because I could put the book down if I, if I wanted, if it got
Yes.
too much, I put it down, come back to it later. But yeah, I can understand that. So you come home, you start a successful business. Now you're involved in the VVA. What's next for you?
I don't know. I really, really don't. I know that when my term is over at Cloverleaf, I'll be 73 years old. I would really like to go south and not have to deal with the winters.
But you're keeping your place in Chippewa to come back. in the
I hope
summer.
so. Boy, I hope so. Because
They're not going to let you leave down
well,
there.
that's my problem. I love it.
Yeah.
I love waking up. There's nothing about Chippewa that I don't like.
Right.
There's some things that have happened recently that I would like to give my kids back the park.
Right.
I would like to give my kids back the lake. But those things happen, and
Right.
as you grow, those kinds of things
Yeah,
occur.
things change, yeah.
But I'd like to stay in Chip in the summer and go someplace, whether I buy a home or just rent one down there for a couple of months, either way. But the other part of that, though, that's on a negative is if you get down there, you're pretty well locked for 2 months to
Yeah.
where it is, or
Right.
however many months you're down
Right.
there. And I like to go to the Caribbean.
Move around a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, we're going on a big vacation in June. And it kind of limits that because you got the money going in down here.
Right, right.
So, I could be doing some other
You'll
things.
figure it out, though.
Yeah, because those things just come when I'm ready.
So got a couple minutes left here, and I just want to ask you: is there anything any advice you would give to a Vietnam veteran or some of the younger guys coming home today that maybe helped you get past some things and get on with your life and become who you are?
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
You'll not like this, but I'll say, go to your place right now and get to know who they are.
Right.
A phone call, you're helped. A visit, you're helped. They helped me do all the health stuff and everything.
Right.
I mean, in a day. I mean,
Right.
it was ridiculous.
We try hard.
And know the people that are working in your area. That will help you get through the early parts of it. Don't be afraid to talk about those things with your family. Don't be afraid to talk with other people that may help you through the military.
Right.
There's a lot of other things that can straighten you up.
Right.
So don't be afraid to admit that you have a problem. That was a tough thing for me. Don't be afraid to admit that you need some help, and then get it. You deserve it.
Yeah.
What you've gone through is something that a lot of other people just don't understand.
And you got to accept the help and work with it too. It's not like
Absolutely.
magic dust where somebody goes, "Here, you're better."
No. You're not going to go in and somebody's going to say, "Oh, okay, I'm cured."
Yeah, no.
You have to read on
Yeah.
it. You have to study. You have to take documents that they give you, and then you have to be ready to discuss
on.
those further. I would do that. I would, if I had anybody that was in the same places as me in the service, I would find those people as friends. And so now I have somebody of equal to talk to. Don't be afraid to come home and use the information that you learned, the discipline that you learned in your jobs and in your life.
And become successful.
If
you had a chance to do it all over again, would you do it the same way in the military?
Probably.
There you go.
Maybe not. Maybe I'd stay. No. I talk about that to people that are going in for 6
Right.
years and they're planning to stay. I have friends that stayed in the military and became colonels and watch what their lives are like now with total coverage of health care and all that stuff. I'm not so sure I wouldn't have done it. But with my attitude at that point, I probably wouldn't change what I
It's
did.
not for everybody. I mean, but Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show, Bill.
Thank you for
All
asking
right.
me. I appreciate it.
Bill Schmock, Medina County resident and Vietnam veteran. Thanks for coming to the show today. We'll see you later.
You make me wear my bike helmet.
Taught me never to run with scissors.
And to follow the swimming rules.
You tell me to stay away from drugs.
To always buckle my seatbelt.
So why do you keep a loaded gun in your drawer?
How safe is that?
You asked them to follow some safety rules. Now they're asking you. In fact, they're counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. visit ncpc.org.